Hello fellow nerds and book lovers. Welcome to Ridcully's book review. I'm Ridcully. Today we're going to be going over the next book in the Callie's War series, the spin-off in the Aldonado series by John Ringo and Julie Cochrane. This book was published in 2007, and if you have the audio version, it's read again by Mark Vitor. Very good voice, very good book. Go through some non-spoilers here at the start. Sister Time is the second book in the series, and to me it's a prequel in a storyline. Kind of like what jumps to mind is like Die Hard 2. It's a good book and it's entertaining, but in my opinion, it wasn't as good as the first one. And in most forms of entertainment, when you're carrying on a continual storyline, the author, the publisher, the director, whoever's telling the story wants to up the progression of the hero and to make it interesting, so the hero's just not dominating. They also have to up the danger, the abilities of the villain. And this is really hard to do in storytelling, and that's why most sequels aren't as good. And this book kind of falls into that category. It's entertaining. I enjoyed it. It's still one of my favorite books, but it's really got what I call some Marauders Map moments, where cool ideas, cool concepts makes a cool story, as long as you don't take a second and say, wait, what? Was this always available? Did they have this in the other stories? And Ringo and Julie in this book, they go big and they don't go home. Literally, they introduce elements that they say powers that will destroy the galaxy. Not a not a new weapon or a new ship or a new gun. It's galaxy destroying jump in technology and magic. And what makes it hard is it's apparently we find out that it's always been in the alliance, against the Bossling. The knowledge and these powers were already there. So like I say, it's a Marauders Map moment. They're cool and they're fun, but they completely, in my opinion, kind of destroy and cheapen a lot of the rest of the storylines in the rest of the books. And even in this one, you find yourself just saying, well, if you have this ability, why don't you just do this? And Julie and Ringo do put some effort into explaining why they won't do this. I'll go into some of the details. And their explanation works. We're working with aliens that you can't apply human logic to, so that's actually really helpful, because humans would never act like the aliens are set up. But as long as the aliens are set up in a way and then they're consistent, and they are in these books, it helps to explain the story. The problem that sneaks in is you've got humans which are exposed to these powers and these secrets also, and they adapt, or I should say adopt the aliens' way of thinking and doing things and respect them. And you can see that they do it in order to progress and gain for all of humanity in them. So it does work out, but at the same time, it's really hard for me as a reader to not just say, well, yeah, I wouldn't. There's no way you could give me a hammer that big and I wouldn't start to see lots of nails. But that's there is an explanation, and it does work for the most part. There's some things that I don't understand, and I spend a lot of time thinking about them. Usually when I make notes going through a book, 4 or 5 pages of notes, things that I want to think about and talk about. And I got looking, and I've got 16 pages of notes in this book. There were just so many things that I didn't understand. So I'm not going to go through 16 pages. It would be a couple hours to go through. So I'm just going to give a brief overview when I do the specifics. The Callie's War series is good. It's not as good as the first three in the Postling War series. This book definitely jumps to a new level. It's got Buckley is introduced. I mean, he's basically Marvin in a PDA, except everybody has Marvin. It has a Buckley. His personality is humorous, is fun. It's got all the old characters, you know, Callie, Papa, introduces Michelle. It goes through a lot more of the politics and the intrigue, working with the different galactic species. Read it, enjoy it. When you come to the moments, you know, if you're like me and you want to think through the logic and try and piece together the background, you're going to be, well, unless you're smarter than me, which I'm sure a lot of you are, you'll spend more time thinking about it. There are ways to make it work and explain it. Some of them I don't like, some of them you might. It's a Die Hard 2 book, you know, entertaining and fun. There's a lot of things added to it that are difficult to make work and confusing to make work. I do think that they actually do work in the end. I'm going to give the spoiler alert now and go into some of the specifics. We're not going to go through all of my notes, but just a few of them. The book starts out with Callie. They've been abandoned by the majority of the Baden Shi. In this book, you find out that really, apparently, the entire Indoi race is in on the Baden Shi. And you also find out, apparently, that the entire crab race is aware and part of the Baden Shi. So it really, you know, frustrates me because these entire races are trying to get rid of the Darhel. The Darhel have manipulated them so that they are in political control, but yet these other races have obvious power over the Darhel, and they don't use it, and then they don't let the humans use it either. They try and apparently turn their back on the humans. They're okay with the Darhel's manipulations, but not the humans. So it became a bit frustrating. Right at the very start, Callie is on an op trying to make some money because of the split, you know, of these other races turning their back on the Baden Shi in favor of the Darhel. You know, he uses the line "aliens are aliens" in the book, which works. You know, I can see that, but it adds a level of frustration. Callie's on this op, and then all of a sudden, Michelle teleports in. And that is the Marauders map moment for me. It's just like, you've got instantaneous teleportation, apparently light years distant, instantaneous travel. It implies instantaneous communication, instantaneous travel. That in and of itself could have done so many things. I've made one page all about Michelle, and she can just teleport in. We find out that it's supposed to be a secret, but yet at the same time, you know, this technology, this magic, this ability was there, and they didn't let the humans in on it. They didn't let the humans use it for the war that was protecting them. It would have changed so many things in wartime to have that ability. The entire economy is based on nanites, and the nanites used in the tanks, and on purpose the nanites are made into the currency, and they have a time limit that they stop working, and they're lost, and you have to pay to replace them. That's the basis for the entire currency. We find out that Michelle can make as many nanites as she wants, so she can make, you know, a planet's volume of nanites that would never stop working. So I just have to put a pin in that. That just completely blew my mind. I mean, I don't got time to do an economics discussion with Adam Smith and Maynard Keyes and Milton Friedman, Karl Marx, and Ron Paul. Oh, that way madness lies. We're just going to leave it. Yeah. Apparently Michelle doesn't make nanites and doesn't pay off her debts and just plays along out. I don't know why. That part, Michelle is a god, and apparently there's at least 5 human mentats at that level, and who knows how many Indui at that level. And then the crabs, there's lots of them at a higher level. Mentats, it says that they can destroy galaxies. Any one of them can destroy galaxies. So you can see why they want that high of a control. Their ideas of what's a control has moral implications and questions. Michelle is being threatened by the Darhel. She says that, I can get away with my teleportation, but I've got my kids. But yet she teleports her apprentice at a different part of the book. So apparently she could teleport her kids away. It sets up that she doesn't do it because she's afraid that humans won't be trusted as a whole race if she's a human mentat, doesn't just let the Darhel manipulate her and kill her. But in the back of my mind, I'm going the whole time, she's got the power to teleport. She's got the power to literally, she can make these nanites. That's like saying that your economy is based on gold and then finding out that your cousin is Rumpelstiltskin and he's got a huge spinning wheel. Yeah, I just want Michelle. I want Michelle to go rogue. I'm having a hard time, wrapping my mind around that she is so enlightened and so wise that she's just going to let herself die to preserve the future of humanity. And then that's compounded in that the villain of the story, Eric Winchon, is using a mind control device that was left by the Aldenata that the crabs already know the technology to. So I make the assumption that this is the device that was used to manipulate the Darhel and to manipulate the Porcelain by the Aldenati to make them who they are, or at least part of the device or part of the series of devices. And Eric Winchong is using it and he sets up in the traditional, character of Satan. He's going to make all of humanity be good, or Vicky from the iRobot movie, or HAL 9000 from Space Odyssey. The super intelligent. He's not a computer, but he acts like a computer that's decided, it's his responsibility to make humanity not be evil. And this is his definition of not evil, and he's going to force it. And he's a mentat. And the crabs and the Indui in the storyline are okay with him. He doesn't actively kill anybody. What he's doing in manipulating the entire race and having his underlings use this machine to torture and kill people is okay. So it makes me really kind of hate the crabs, hate the Indui. That they're giving the O'Neills such crap and abandoning them and turning their backs on them. And yet they're supporting and letting Eric Winchong. In the end, they allow Callie to kill Pardal, the Darhel that had set things up to possibly kill Michelle by making her starve herself to death, by calling her Tracks in, by letting Winchong. It was a complicated plot. The plot and the story actually have a linear progression that works. But I found the crabs and the Indui to just, I started to hate them. I started to actually like the Porcelain. I got thinking, if this is the way the crabs and the Indui and the Darhel are, I'm kind of cheering for the Porcelain to wipe them out. They're a bunch of dicks. And then they're dicks that want to get out. They have this bait and she that they're all involved in. And they have humans involved in it now too, to try and get the Darhel to stop manipulating them. And then they turn their backs on the humans because the humans kill some people in the war. It's literally war. But yet they don't stop the Darhel. They somehow have the Darhel, are so worried that losing the Darhel's political manipulations, they let the Darhel do it. And It was a frustrating plot for me. Fun story, fun characters. Apparently, I wanted to be not quite so aggressive, but apparently I can't talk about it and think about it without getting upset. Apparently, I didn't like the story. I didn't like the plot. It works. It's got fun characters. If you turn your mind off a little bit and then just enjoy the story, the characters, and the situations they're in are fun. Like I said, I always love Buckley. Whenever Buckley's being his depressed robotic self, it's awesome. Callie, her character is pretty awesome, though in a couple of times she's very unprofessional for a super spy killer. I didn't quite understand in the team meetings why she wouldn't take questions, or supposed to be playing, the girlfriend. She throws a fit over carpet. Carpet. Then in the other book, reminds her when she'd been tortured in the other book. Yet in the other book, she was just fine after having been tortured, but now the carpet sends her into a frenzy and jeopardizes the entire operation. So she's set up as a super spy, and yet white carpet, she'll let jeopardize the entire op, which disappointed me in her character, but whatever, nitpicky small things. They bring in Mosevich and Jake the Snake, our leading DAG. And that's cool. It turns out the DAG has been infiltrated, and it's just being used as training by the O'Neill clan, Tommy's family and his descendants, and Papa's family and his descendants. So that was way cool. There's lots of cool parts in the book. There is one that I have to rant a little bit about. Callie tests one of the young Baden She that wants to be an assassin, has her do the standard movie possible real test of, you got to walk into that room and just kill that person, no questions asked, to test if that person is willing to take the order to go and do something. And I've always hated that concept, at the same time as I realize its necessity. In the middle of a fight, in the middle of a battle, in the middle of a war, you can't have soldiers, assassins, whoever, saying, Sarge, I'm having a moment of existential dread. I really need some time in the cry closet. You don't got time for that. People will die, you'll die, the situation, your whole side could lose if you take the time to ask the questions. You just have to have the blind faith and do what you're told. For the maximum efficiency, which sucks, because if there's anybody that is justified in taking a few minutes in the cry closet, it would be a soldier or an assassin in the middle of a live or die fight. And the ironic part of Callie testing the new assassin on going into the room, kill that person you don't get to know, is that the whole reason that they split from the Baden She is because she found out that a person that she personally wanted dead and knew the story was still alive, and so she ignored the whole, you don't get to ask questions, you don't get to make the decisions. I went and killed the guy on her own. So in the same storyline, it portrays, the assassin isn't supposed to know, isn't supposed to ask questions, supposed to do their job, yet at the same time, Callie, the person teaching that lesson, is the one in the storyline that totally smashed that lesson to pieces. Bit of irony there. But there is a time afterwards where you do get to ask that. And they do talk about that in Downchained Loyalty. You get to ask, am I killing the right people? Am I killing the right side? I remember a friend, we were talking, there was a group of us, and it came up, and he said that he was in the army in South Africa, and a lot of people kind of stopped and looked and raised an eyebrow, and I can't remember who it was, another person asked, so which side were you on? And you could see the pain and the guilt on his face. And he says, well, You know, there are times when you just, especially when you're young and you're 18, that when people put a gun in your hands and tell you to do something, you don't question it until later. Later, he questioned it. He got out, and he's got to live with that the rest of his life. And he says, I've got to live with that now. For those of you that are too young, he was in the South African Army protecting apartheid, fighting against Mandela. There comes a time out of combat when you do need to ask. So I hate the idea that, you tell the spy to walk into the room, kill a person, no questions asked. You don't get to ask why. You don't get to ask what they did, why they deserve it. You just got to do it. I understand the necessity, but at the same time, if you're out of combat, we have the rights as humans to ask, and we have the moral responsibility to ask and to question. So it's a standard necessity and test for a soldier, but yet I hate the concept, and sorry about that rant. I just had to touch base on that. Terry Pratchett has a similar situation in one of his books where he tells Detritus the troll, this is our enemy, we've just caught him being our enemy, shoot him. Detritus looks at his enemy, looks at Vimes, the guy's their prisoner. A little bit different scenario, but the troll says, no, I'm not going to shoot him. There's no reason. I know enough of the story, it's murder for me to shoot him at this point. And the distinction is in Terry Pratchett's scenario, Detritus knew. In this scenario, you don't know, you don't get to ask, you don't get to question. So it's a moral dilemma in society, unfortunately, that humans have when we have operations, when we have wars, when we have fighting. Time, efficiency, ability, strength, they're all tied into it. When you're in those situations, the moral dilemmas and the psychological and the cultural dilemmas have already broken down. So you pick your side, you hope you're on the right side. Outside of the fighting, keep fighting on the social and the political and the information and the discussion levels, trying to avoid it, try and fix it. But that was an interesting part in the book. It's a part that bugged me. It's a part that I wish it wasn't the way it is, but yet I understand and accept that is the way it is, at least in some situations. Tell me what you think. I've skipped all kinds of cool parts, all kinds of neat characters in the book. Tell me what you think. Tell me if I'm wrong, if I'm being overly critical about this book. Why? Does the plot work? Does the scenario work? We're going to put a pin and ignore the economics of it. I hope that some of these ideas, some of this information helps you. You have a good night.